Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. And wow, hey Michelle, we got a show today that we have not had on It's Your Life before, and it's going to be interesting. And I'm excited to have this guest back on. He's been on the show a few times, and we're talking about something that at one time or another affects everybody. I mean, I believe. Uh, but and a lot of time we don't want to talk about those type of things. We're talking about betrayal, do breakup, infidelity, all type of stuff. I know it's a tough topic to talk about, and it's affect us. I can remember in high school a couple of times uh, that you think that you're in love and you think that you're in all this, and someone come along and just crushes your heart, and that's kind of tough to get through sometimes, but then you just learn it. So how you doing today, Michelle?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, this is an interesting topic. And this returning guest is going to kind of go a little deeper into it from a different perspective. So we're definitely interested in that. So, yeah, high school, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you feel you're in love, you're in a you're in a relationship, your heart's in it. So we're really excited about the topic today.
But it's also betrayal happens in other things in life in general, not just through infidelity. And I mean, the pain is the same when you trust somebody, you believe someone, and then all of a sudden you find out that they have betrayed you. And so I'm excited about this show. I'm excited about bringing Lee back on. Michelle, can you please introduce the title of the show, the topic, the purpose, and also introduce his great guest, returning guest?
Yes, the topic of the title of the show today is From Betrayal to Breakthrough, How to Recover from Infidelity and Move Forward. So we're going to have a conversation with the founder and CEO of Cereset, Lee Gerdes, and we're going to talk about the severity and prevalence of post-infidelity stress disorder, PISD, the impact of gender differences in processing emotional trauma. Talk about the proven strategies for coping with heartbreak and PISD and the role of neurotechnology in managing emotional trauma. So, sleep researcher Lee Gerdes, he is the founder and CEO of Cereset, a developer of state-of-the-art neurotechnology to improve sleep and well-being. A trauma-induced brain dysregulation caused Lee 8 years of agonizing sleeplessness. Utilizing his background in mathematics, physics, software development, theology, and psychology, he was able to develop a simple, painless, non-invasive procedure to end his sleep problems by resetting and harmonizing his brain by listening to his own brain waves. Harmonizing the brain, that's one of the subtopics we'll be talking about on this topic today. So please welcome back to the show, Mr. Lee Gerdes.
How you doing, Lee? Man, it's always a pleasure having you on the show because you always bring something different, something new. And this right here, this topic today that we're talking about, kind of caught my attention. I said, "Oh, okay, let's talk about this one." So, Lee, first of all, can you tell our viewers and our listeners, just tell them that if, in case they haven't seen a couple of shows that you've been on before, can you tell them a little bit about your background and where you grew up?
um, my background was in computer software and basically as an engineer, but I also have a background in, as Michelle said, thank you very much for the intro, was in theology and clinical psych. So as well as math, physics, and computer software, I was kind of a schizophrenic learner. But in '92, I was assaulted by 4 youth. And then from that assault, everything changed. I spent 8 years trying to struggling with that in various ways. Headache, foggy thinking, couldn't sleep, but almost couldn't sleep at all. And so I founded this technology when I started looking at my brain to find the problem. And then once I found the problem, I realized that in my lifetime, I'm seeing an infinite system, i.e. between my ears. The brain is an infinite system, but it drives everything below it, everything, how we think, do, experience, believe, and express. Everything we do is driven by this 3-pound mass. And so the problem then is that it's very, very difficult for science to come in and, tweak it. And it's sometimes impossible for us to tweak it as well, because the brain works to protect itself first and foremost. And in doing that, if it gets stuck and says, oh, I worked like this, which isn't good for the person, but yet was good for the situation, it's stuck. So I had to find a way to help it see itself and then move forward. I had to support what was there and not change it, which I did. I just supported it in the middle. And it worked. I mean, that basically didn't come from me, though. It came from a heartfelt thought in terms of a semi-dream state. And I've always believed it came from the Lord, and I still do. I went away from my faith for those 8 years, and I think I was the prodigal son. And then when I came back, the only thing I could do, as in the story of the prodigal son, was fall on my knees and say, okay, Lord, whatever you want me to do. And from there, I was all in.
Wow. So I know last time you was on the show, you were saying one of the changing moments was when you was a kid, and the 4 kids, I think it was 4, that you had a confrontation with.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell our audience a little bit about that? Because I think that's important in identifying that what you had talked about was getting a chance to realize by stepping away and coming back on what God purpose, or at least one of his purposes, are worth for you.
Sometimes, and maybe it's a topic we're talking about today for some people, maybe for all people, I don't know. But sometimes the painful things of life will lead us to things we may not have done otherwise. And certainly this painful thing by those 4 youth who I think, were trying to get soldiered up to be in a gang and prove themselves, whatever. One had a baseball bat. And so when attacked, we're doing so probably to gain stripes effectively. And at the time, I don't care because my only purpose was to survive. And now we see this kind of thing happening, and it was in San Francisco, and now we see it happening in San Francisco, not just once in a while, but regularly, probably almost daily. And a lot of times it's with mothers and single women, easy targets. And so the problem was, though, that it was my turning point, which I can now really, really, really tell you I give thanks for. I don't think I could have done anything in life to be as satisfied as I am today. I mean, I'm just, a lot of times you ask me how I am, and I'll say I'm boringly really well. Because I deal with, I have an opportunity now to deal with a lot of people. And, James, what you do, you always see them and then you think, wow, how favored am I? Right. And so, that was a transition. And I worked even later to make sure I could do what I could, because I knew a lot of those gang members from San Francisco area went upstairs to Las Vegas to get higher in the echelon, if you will. And so we did a trial with the Department of Corrections in Nevada, and I dealt with medium security inmates who were couched to go to maximum security, and I did that so I could help myself see not just what I went through, but what they were going through.
What they was going through. No, I want to change it and talk about the topic today. Of what the topic that you chose for the show today, betrayal to breakthrough and how to recover from infidelity. Can you first of all tell our viewers and our listeners why you chose that topic and what do you want them to get out of this? And then we're going to start the major conversation.
First, we've just gone through COVID. It's been locked down, a time period where we were almost jailed, and sometimes couples were together, unfortunately, maybe for too long. But also what happened was stress was way higher. And so it's now not just something, it is an epidemic. And there's a reason for that. And my early life experiences in this area were not that big or great, I didn't think. Kind of like everybody else, you're dating or whatever, and he or she decides to go with another. Okay. Yes, it breaks your heart. Yes, it makes a difference. Yes, you recover. But part of what is happening then is that you recover because you're younger and you have a more ability to recover. But when you're in that relationship for a longer period of time, unfortunately for me, I felt when I was assaulted that I was betrayed by my God, who had promised to protect me. And in retrospect, I see I wasn't betrayed. And that's why I'm here. And but it's a major topic, and it's a big deal, even without an assault. I mean, a betrayal is a very big deal.
I think it's a big deal. But we're gonna take a station break. But when we come back, we're gonna really break it down. Betrayal from an infidelity perspective, and how a person or people can come back and recover from that and live prosperous lives. So that's a good starting point, and I'm excited to get off into this. And whichever platform that you're watching this on, if you want to be part of the conversation and talk to Lee, all you have to do is just go to the comments, ask them any question that you might have, and I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life. We'll be back shortly after the break.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. And I got my good friend here, Lee, and we get ready to talk about the title of the show today: a heartbreak, breakthrough, infidelity, all type of things. And it's not just about infidelity in that way, but it's about being betrayed. And many times our betrayal can come in a lot of different ways, but especially it's painful when you're in a relationship, or you think you're in a relationship, and you got your heart locked into it, and all of a sudden, bam, something happened to, like, I did not see that coming. I never even saw that, so wherever you're watching it at, if you want to be part of this conversation, join in. Hey, Lee, can you tell our audience what exactly is heartbreak or relationship trauma?
When we commit to something, and I know you're big on commitment, James, and when we commit to something, and another person, another human being's involved, and it generally, and especially in kind of a personal relationship, but it could be in a business relationship where we're partnered up with someone else in a certain business. When we do that, we have a lot of ourselves invested, and Michelle calls that all in. I think more she refers to it as the heart's involved, and I can see how appropriate that is, because it is. I mean, we are all in, so to speak. We are confident in that, as we are that we're going to be able to get up and walk across the floor. And then something happens, and we find out that confidence wasn't true. That is the break. And what just happened was, after that break, after we discover that break, is that a traumatic event has happened. And when that traumatic event happens, then, like any traumatic event, we have two choices, because our brain works in one of two ways. If we can do something about this, then we go into fight or flight on the right side. But if what we're experiencing is beyond our doing anything about it, then our brain protects us, because if we go into fight or flight, we're going to spin out, and we're going to have something serious happen to us. Then we go into the left side, which is a freeze response, or a break, and it says, stop. Everything slows down in our system. We are numbed, and it's meant to do that, to help us. So depending on the degree of trauma and what it is in that relationship dictates, how dramatic it is and which side it's on. But it could be on either side. But let me give you for instance, if I may. A woman in her early 60s came in, and she said she'd been working and dealing with this, and it just a traumatic event in a relationship. She said her husband she'd been married, she thought, happily for 30 plus years. And they had at one point in time invested their retirement funds together, so it had more leverage and whatever. And then at work, they had to come up with they changed retirement plans. And so her guidance at work, at her employment, said, okay, I can help you with that. What's your retirement plan now? And when she gave the person the retirement plan, the numbers and so on, the person came back and said, there's nothing there. And so then she's, immediately starts to compromise, or she's immediately compromised. And her first call is to her husband, and finds out eventually that her husband has been seeing another person, that the business trips weren't business trips, they were personal, and he had spent the entire retirement fund. Now, there was nothing she could do about it. There was nothing that she could do to make that problem less. And her brain went into a total freeze response. When that happened, things change. The autonomic system moves into that freeze response, and everything else follows it. For instance, cognitive ability lessens. The ability to get restful sleep traumatically is compromised. Our immune system is compromised. Everything, every aspect of our life is compromised. And people would try to tell her, well, she's got to let go and let God. And she would respond, I would love to. I don't know how to do that. And that's where I was for those 8 years as well. And so I very well understand where she is. Once she came out of that, everything started to change for her. And then she got some positivity counseling, coaching, and she just ended up taking off, even in her 60s, like a rocket. And it was so enjoyable for us to see and her touch base once in a while. It happens in various stages to various degrees for individuals. And but when it happens, it is always a traumatic event, and there will always be a shock to the system in one way or the other.
Wow, that is only thing I can say is wow about that. Lee, why is relationship trauma involving betrayal so hard to resolve?
Because about 70% of the time, give or take 10%, we find that happens to the female, right? And about roughly 30% of the time to the male. But it is more difficult, the resolution is more difficult for the female because her brain is much different. And biblically, we understand that the male is encouraged to take responsibility and be protective. And that's why when the military went out to find out about post-traumatic stress disorder for those who were deployed in and around Afghanistan, they found out that females were about 2.65 more times more likely to have PTSD from experiencing the same conditions as the males. Why? Because the female brain is different. So if you've ever been driving and asked Michelle to give you directions, she can, she has no problem with that. And you say, no, wait, I just want to know where I need to turn. Because her brain is able to go from detail to context and context to detail twice as fast or more than yours. Sorry, James, but that's the case.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not arguing with you on that one. You're right. You're
I'm
right.
probably giving Michelle too much ammunition now, but so let me give you some ammunition. So if she's doing something and she wants you to join her, but you're watching a game, let's say, and you don't hear her, you don't respond, and finally she just, James, did you hear me? and then you think, oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, honey. Whatever. Well, you may not have, because we lock down. When we focus, we have a tendency to lock down as males because our brains don't go back and forth as much. But she can talk on the phone, hold the baby, make dinner, and think about tomorrow's menu at the same time. And when I say that, the hair on the back of my neck goes straight out. I can't do that. But that also makes her, generally speaking, a very powerful on the one hand, but it makes her very vulnerable on the other hand. And in a relationship, a traumatic event, she is much more likely to be hurt more deeply. So we have to stand up and take responsibility for that place of protection of that relationship, which we can offer best as males. We have to continue to do that and watch our own steps in the world.
Wow. You came up in your bio, not bio, but in research today, you came up with this term post-infidelity stress disorder. I know you talked about PTSD, a different one. Can you explain to our viewers and our listeners exactly what do that mean?
When we go into traumatic stress disorder, or we go into post-infidelity stress disorder, basically the same things happen. It's just the reason for the trauma is different usually. PTSD can happen when we have a financial crisis, when we have a threat or assault, when we have an earthquake or some kind of a natural disaster that we're a part of. We can develop post-traumatic stress from that because the source of the trauma is that. But here, in post-infidelity, the source of the trauma, we're deeply connected to that. It's not any longer that we might lose our house or lose our money only. We lose our heart connections. We lose our purpose. Part of our purpose is gone because we thought our purpose was with this person and walking in life with this person, and now it's gone. And now we're alone. We wonder if we're sane. We can do a lot of things because that traumatic event is very difficult to handle.
You are absolutely right. And all of this is coming together right now because it is. It's kind of like, and I'm trying to understand, it's like losing your partner, even though they're there or whatever that might mean. But when we cause or they cause us pain, or because they step out and they do other things, and we're not aware of it, that pain could be so painful that it might be almost impossible to get over that. But I want you to hold that thought because we're gonna take a station break. When we come back, I want to talk about the psychological and the physiological perspective of that. So
Okay.
our viewers and our listeners out there, if you want to be part of this conversation, this is a great conversation. All you do is just go to wherever platform you're watching this at ask any questions that you want, or just join into the conversation. It's your life. I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We'll be back shortly after the break. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you that last segment toward the end kind of got me because it's so true. When you dedicate your life, you dedicate your business, you dedicate whatever that is. Infidelity is not all about just between a man and woman or a relationship. It's a relationship with anything that you give your heart, your mind, your body, your soul to grow, to develop, and you're committed, and you think that your partners or whoever is committed as well. Then you find out that, wow, I mean, they've been doing all these other things, and I thought it was just me and this person doing these things, building our business, building our relationship, building our marriage, and now we got all of these other tanglements in here. It's like, that's hard to come by. And so Lee was talking about post-infidelity stress disorder, and that can go a lot of different ways. Lee, you want to pick that up again and let our viewers know that it's not just between a marriage. It's between when you're married to a business, when you're married to all these other type of things. And if you bring somebody else in and they start, just like you were telling the story about the 60-year-old woman, husband, and when I met somebody, took all the money, done spend it in savings, and that's painful. So can you pick that up again?
So when we faced that kind of betrayal, the kind of betrayal that involves our heart, and involving our heart is, as you just said, it definitely is in personal relationships, but it is also in business relationships at times. We get very involved with other people, and we think we're walking together towards a common goal. And then we find out that the other person wasn't walking towards that goal. And then we go, oh my, what did I do? you know, why did I invest myself? Or then we think, well, that person is not nice, but we probably don't use that language. and then we sort of have two possible responses. We can get hostile or angry-ish or angry, or that's the fight or flight side. If we can do something, if we think we can do something about it, or if it looks possible, or we can be numbed. And that's the way our brain's going to work. And if it goes just a little way, one way or the other, it doesn't get stuck. But if this is serious, life-threatening stuff for us that we've just experienced in this trauma, then it goes a long way to one side or the other, and then it can get stuck. And when it gets stuck, unfortunately, the brain made the decision to do that. So when we try and try to bring it together, or to harmonize these sides so that they're dance partners again, because we have two sides of our brain, and it doesn't work, we can pretty well guarantee that it's not our fault. But when we can get freed from that stuckness or that stuck position to move more freely then and go up on one side or up on the other side, then you know, when we go up on the parasympathetic or the numb side, that's the side we go up on at night when we go into bed. That's the side it's going to lead us in sleep, right? Rest and digest side. And when we go up on the other side, that side's going to lead us in the world to move and to activate and to do actions and thinking and et cetera, expressions. So we need them both, and they need to be and have a rhythm to it as a harmony. And when they get stuck, we can't get the harmony. And then our life gets stuck and our health gets stuck. And physicians may look at us and say, well, I don't know what's wrong. You know, maybe you have to forgive. I would love to forgive. Don't you understand? I don't care about them or him or her. I don't care. I just want to get to a norm. So if we can find a way to get our brains then to harmonize, then we can listen to you coach us, or listen to a positivity counselor coach us. So we realize that for crying out loud, we can love ourselves, and then we can express that out into the world in a very confident, positive way.
So you mentioned brain harmony and both sides of the brain being in, harmony. How long does it take? I mean, people are different and their thought processes are different when they experience a trauma like this. I mean, you guys deal with folks like this all the time in your clinics and all this. How do you guys handle this and try to predict a time frame based on that person's situations? How long, how many sessions, etc., that it might require? I know that's a loaded question.
No, that's an excellent question, and it brings us to a complicating factor that can happen during the process when we are stuck. And that complicating factor is something that we think can solve our problem very quickly. And that's generally a medication. So we're going to change this chemistry somehow. And maybe it's because I think I'm depressed and I get antidepressants. Maybe it's because I think I'm anxious and I get anti-anxiety meds, and maybe it's because I can't sleep and I'm going to get sleeping meds, or all three. And now we're training our brain, which was stuck, to be stuck and receive these chemicals. And that is complicating. It's complicating our process for healing, even though it lessens the symptoms in the short term. And, and physicians don't do it nefariously. They don't do it with any bad intent. They do it to help us because they want to see us get through the process. But let's take antidepressants, for example. Antidepressants were discovered and used and for the purpose basically of to be used for no more than 6 weeks to say 3 months, or on the outside 6 months. And you see people on them for years. And that chemical change, when we see that brain, that chemical change, we call it welding. That serotonin's so hot, that brain fire is so hot, that things just connect and stay together on both sides. And it's like a V8 engine. It no longer fires like this. It fires like this. Kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. And when that happens, the person gets anxiety, really bad anxiety. And so then they get a medication for the anxiety. And then they go along for a while because now they have a hot and they have a cold. And they go along for a while and then they tell their doctor, I think I'm losing my mind. And then generally they will be given an antipsychotic, and generally they will be diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Speaking of that, so we just created another mental health crisis because the person was going through trauma and all of these things anyway. And with the medication and with the way that they're thinking, how difficult is it to try to come up with a plan or solution that doesn't require a whole lot of medication? Because you're right, once you get on that medication, you own it for a while, to try to ease the pain and also deal with the mind. And we only got about 1 minute before the break.
So what we do is when we start with someone like that has chosen medication to lessen symptoms, and I certainly don't blame anybody for doing that, by the way, because sometimes it's like your life is over. Okay, I tried my share of medication during those 8 years. Everybody does, or lots of people do. And it's not the worst thing, but now you're ready, that they haven't solved the problem. So what you're doing is you're looking for help. And when they come to us to do that, then when they start, we ask them to see their doctor and get a plan for titration, get a plan for cutting down on the dosages 2 or 3 times before they can get off of them. So the first part of the plan would start on the first day of sessions. And that would be the first, say the doctor decided to take it down to half a dose of what they were taking, and they would start that half a dose the first day. And then we'd do 2 or 3 sessions with them, and they would go for a week or 10 days. And then we would have some more sessions.
Hey, Lee, I want you to hold that thought because I want our viewers and listeners to know about Cereset, the processes that you're talking about, and how they can get in touch with you guys to help them out with that. So I don't want no shortcuts right now. So I'm gonna take a station break, and we'll come back and we'll pick it up from there. If you want to be part of this great conversation, all you do is go to the comments, ask this great man any question you like. It's your life. We'll be back shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling.
welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and my buddy here, Lee, he bringing it to us. We was currently talking about post-infidelity stress disorder, and we kind of tied that into post-traumatic syndrome disorder. And what we was just ended with is when a person is experiencing all of these things, they kind of, you have to, and I had to say it because mental health is a major issue in our society today, in the whole world, not just the United States. So it's in every community, it's in every neighborhood, it's probably in every family. And many times we get caught up with that, and medication is primarily what most doctors recommend. But there are other treatments, just like Lee organization, Cereset, and other organizations out there as well, that's geared to help us cope with a lot of the issues that we have, because a lot of them is kind of hard to really come across. And we need to have all of the help that we have in order to help coach us. And I mentioned coach, therapies, all of it. There's nothing wrong with seeing a professional medical person, and also seeing professional organizations like Lee organization to work with you and also encourage you. So I want to pick it up with that, Lee. What are your processes? And you already know just as well as I do, medicine and pills and all of that is not the only answer. Most of the time they put you to sleep and you can't cope with the problem. Sometimes you need to talk to some real people, go to therapy and do all these things. I want you to tell them some of the things that your organization does, because you got a great organization and you're a great help support organization. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, what we do is we reflect the brain back to itself. And what we do is, this is a sensor right here. And you see that little, there's a little tab that goes in there, and some conductive paste is placed on that. And then that's placed in various places on your head, so we can read the brain pattern into the computer. And then when the computer sees that brain pattern, it sees, oh, wait, I have a really stuck imbalance here. And so what it does is it looks at the range, not on this side and not on this side, but in between. And it takes this range in between. It takes the dominant frequency there, and it plays different sounds for each frequency in the middle range. And that lets the brain know in a very short order, actually, generally well within 2 minutes, sometimes within 30 seconds. But understand, please, that the brain is firing at a rate of 1,000 fires, 1,000 beats a second. So our technology, through those sensors and then through our electronics, is reading that brain 500 times each second. And each time it reads that brain in 4 different locations at the same time, it's looking at 48,000 frequencies. So it has the opportunity to see what's stuck and where and how it's moving and the timing of it. It can't see it in real time, but I'm sure science will go forward and be able to see that someday. Maybe not in my lifetime, because 1,000 beats a second takes an awful lot. They probably have to place something inside of your brain, not on your scalp. but we've come a long way, you know, in the last 20 plus years, and now we can see it much more clearly. And all the client does is lean back in a chair, put earbuds in, and listen to their brain. That's it. They close their eyes and often go to sleep, especially if it's a guy, by the way. I shouldn't probably say that, but and we like the fact that they go to sleep, because we are not dealing with the person. We're not dealing with their value system. We're not dealing with their will or want or diswill to have retribution. We're not dealing with anything like that. All we're doing is freeing the brain. Now, once we free the brain, then we encourage them to go get counseling and have somebody help them, put the pieces back together. It's as if you have a dining room table and you set it for dinner, and then all at once somebody takes it and then everything slides off. And now you're stuck this way. What happens? Oh, Cereset comes along and it slowly takes it back. And now you need somebody to pick up the dishes and reset the table. and so that's the essence of what we do. And that's why we've helped, 170,000 people. That's why we've been so successful in 12 clinical trials with over 1,200 people. That's why, because we don't do anything to the person or the brain. We only support the brain in doing it itself.
And making recommendations on the studies that you guys get, which is so important. For anybody that might be listening and they just clicked in, like, I want to get in touch with Cereset. I mean, how can they do that, Lee? How can they get in touch with your organization and request or go to the clinics and get help?
First of all, we have 60 offices open in the United States. I think 12 or so outside, but we have 60 open in the United States and some more coming soon. And so they can go to Cereset, which CE for cerebrum, CE, and then reset, CERESET.com. They can go there and find their office and then reach out to the office nearest them. And I can assure you, we vet our franchisees very carefully. People running these offices are highly dedicated, and almost all of them, either personally themselves or in terms of personal relations, have experienced Cereset before becoming a franchisee. And that's been very, very helpful for us. We're really proud of the organization. We're proud of our offices, and we're there to help.
Wow. Hey, Lee, so we got 1 minute. Can you give our viewers a couple of takeaways from this great discussion? Because we started out there and everybody thinking that infidelity was about man, woman, all that relationship, but it's about relationship. Can you tell them real quickly some of the takeaways from this great discussion that I just had with you?
You may not be able to sleep. You may think that you're going insane. You may think the world's coming to an end. It's not. Your brain's stuck. There's help.
There's help. And can you give them your website and contact information again for them to be able to reach out to you?
It's Cereset at CERESET.com. And this look up locations and it'll give you the map, and you can point at the map where they're closest to and find your office nearest you.
Lee, my friend, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. You already know that, so thank you. Always looking forward to having you on. I'd like to thank you personally for taking the time to come on the show again. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another great show, but most importantly, I'd like to thank my listeners and my viewers for tuning into the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Always, and my motto, always dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. Stick around for a second, Lee. Dream big, think big at everything you do. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your life with you.